takes a village.
In terms of like ecological solutions using our
Can you also announce who you are?
Sorry, I'm Gloria Gutierrez. I'm with the Women Voters Torrance area.
Thanks for coming here to register.
Thank you. And I'm registering voters, so if anyone wants to register. We're also having a pros and cons event on Monday. Sorry. We're having a pros and cons event on Monday at the George Nakano Theater in Torrance. So if you're interested in learning about any of the propositions, we'll be having conversations about the propositions. So that's, I believe, at 6:30, but please double check our website. I have a question about, I know that for the blue economy, one of the things that's being done north of us and on the other coast is implementing like farms in the ocean for growing seaweed as a great way to help increase the amount of oxygen available in the water. And I'm noticing it doesn't seem to be something happening right here. Does anyone know if that's a solution that we're thinking about?
Want to start with them? I'll start. So one of AltaSea's companies that's there is Catalina Sea Ranch, and they're focusing mostly on growing food in the form of mussels. They're partnering with a company that's working on kelp, but I know that they're expanding to look at seaweed and look at other solutions, but they have the only federal permits to grow food in federal waters. So, and they're starting with 100 acres, and their initial permit is 1,000 acres. So we are looking at it. Anne, do you want to add to that?
Well, just, going up and down the coast, actually both of our coasts, there's a lot of work going on in all sorts of shellfish aquaculture, mariculture farms, Point Reyes, there's oyster farming, there's a lot of oyster. I just came back from a conference of learning of a lot of oyster restoration on the East Coast. Catalina Sea Ranch out here, a lot of work, as Jenny was saying, around kelp farming up in the Northwest as well. So, it's not just about bringing back oxygen in the water, but it's feeding the planet.
Yeah, I know they're doing a study out in Irvine about how using seaweed on the feet of cows reduces how much methane they produce. We
Yes.
need a lot more seaweed.
Well, the kelp is being grown to feed the cattle, because I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but if you feed a cow 10% of their diet as kelp, it cuts down on their emissions by 80% of what it, so that's why they're growing the kelp.
I'm excited about that.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. What an amazing panel, really. I've learned so much. I have a question. If the water is so
Wait,
polluted-
introduce yourself, Heather.
I'm Heather Boulier.
Part of the Civic Custom.
Part of the Civicus group, sorry. Yes, yes. If you're having too many issues with pollution, how does that then help farming? Does that make sense? Like, where's the correlation? How do you grow healthy, clean kelp or mussels, or when you're having, like, what's the balance there? How's that work?
Do you want to start with that? I can start with one mussels.
Go ahead with my mussels.
So the farms are about 7 miles out, and they're right next to where there's a drop off, so there's lots of upwelling. So the way the farms work with mussels and bivalves is there's ropes that go from the sea level to the sea floor, and it's about 100 feet out there, but right next to upwelling. So the water is actually very pure, and they chose mussels because they actually clean the water. So we are hesitant, and by we have a chief scientific officer who's amazing, Dr. Sandra Whitehouse, and we're not at this point looking at finfish, which is where I think some of the issues that you're talking about come from.
I would just add that I think it's a great question, and I so appreciate you thinking about the issue from different angles. And I took the question to mean, how does water pollution impact the things that we're growing? Are they then clean enough for us to eat? And since all aquaculture that I know takes place in the coastal zones, which are impacted by this urban runoff, which is the single biggest source of pollution to our coast, I think it's a really important question, and ways of testing water quality that were mentioned today, and many other ways, and also controlling those pollutants so they're not in the runoff that flows off of our coast will be really important to healthy aquaculture. I personally think that aquaculture is a really important part of our future and feeding our planet. So it's a great question.
I also learned recently on how oysters do it is basically, again, they are also filter feeders, and as they do filter out the pollution as they go through the process and get the feed, they actually encapsulate that which is not good for them and basically expel it out, so it does not impede the quality or the human consumption ability of the oysters. Yeah, I just learned that. Yeah, bivalves are cool.
I have a water bond question. So for the water bond, I don't know who it is. The impermeability question about the, I guess that's our roofs, right? Yeah, for anybody who owns the property and their roofs, it's measured how many feet that roof is, and that's how much the taxes can be. Does that also count for roofs where they're collecting the water off the roof? So it isn't necessarily, like getting lost?
I've been talking a lot, so I'll hand it off after this, but I can answer that question. It's roofs and sidewalks and driveways and patios and things like that. And the answer is yes. If you are capturing your own water, then you can let the county know that, and you have to send them a photograph or whatever to show it, and then you either get exempted or a rebate. I'm not sure how it's going to work. For single family homes, the average value or amount that you'll pay every year is about $85. So some people may find it worth their while to get that rebate, and some people may not if you're capturing your stormwater. But for businesses, like say a Ralph's Market that has huge area, all impermeable, currently giant source of pollution, if they are able to capture and store on site, then, so I think they're gonna benefit a lot from that. But yes, even anybody will be able to apply for that credit or rebate.
And that would all come into effect if it's passed?
Yes, we have to vote on November 6th first, so
You have to vote.
And
we
then you-
also have to get a 66% yes. Because it's a new tax in California, we have to get a 2/3 yes for this measure to pass.
But just to clarify, your point about getting the rebate or exemption, that would all be after it passes and it's in place, right?
That's right.
It's not current.
You don't get any
There's no
rebate for
tax.
anything right
There's
now,
no
to my
program.
knowledge. Are you collecting your stormwater?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I have just a little silly question here for a second? Why would you just poke holes in asphalt when you talk about like a Ralph's parking lot? I mean, I'm sure there's a reason, I just don't know what it
You
is.
can, actually, and that may be one way that it happens, or there's permeable pavement that you can use. You actually have a chunk of pavement, if you pour water on top, it comes through. The only thing that we have to take care about is undermining
Right.
asphalt. You don't wanna, depending how the water's gonna flow, it's gonna carve a hole and then it's gonna fall in. Easily dealt with, but you just have to engineer it a little bit.
Just to echo what you were saying about the capturing stormwater and rebates aside right now, how hard is it for large companies like Ralph's or individual homeowners to capture their stormwater?
It completely depends on the property. It depends on both the configuration, how much permeability, are you on a hill, are you on clay, that kind of thing. I have a rain barrel that holds 1,400 gallons, it's a big tank actually. It almost fills up in a good rainfall from my single family little house. And then the overflow goes to the garden area. So it's pretty easy for me. For Ralph's, surrounded by more impermeable, they're not gonna pull up their parking lot and make it a garden, but they could make their whole parking lot permeable, they could have cisterns underneath, or they can pay the tax and know that a little bit downstream, the city or county that they're in is going to build a larger regional facility, and those are really important as well. Where I live, actually, I'm not above a drinking water aquifer, so I'm infiltrating my stormwater, and the plants around me are probably using it later on a dry day, and I'm preventing pollution, but I'm not increasing directly our local water supply. So it'll be great if other people, if the county and the cities can catch rainwater and use it to augment our water supply and groundwater.
Plus, even, I was gonna read a quotation from Senator Bob Hertzberg where it says, Los Angeles uses 500,000 acre-feet of water annually. We engage in these major processes of engineering and environmental review, and then after we bring in the water, instead of treating it as a resource, we treat it as a waste. So no matter, we need to do things individually, but also collectively, we have to do things, which is what, River LA and why I put together this panel, so we could see the different large scale, civic scale, solutions that need to be taken care of for the future.
If surfers get sick, will that like bring an alarm bell to how polluted the sea is? Is there some human reactivity?
Well,
that
we
happens
do
to the
have studies done in Santa Monica Bay showing increased illness done by in people swimming near storm drains. And Heal the Bay was one of the partners in a very big study called it's by Hale et al. But it showed that there's a gastrointestinal illness, cold symptoms, and skin rashes occur at higher rates near a storm drain versus swimming farther away from it. So we definitely know that there are risks and they're elevated because of the stormwater. What would be added to that with the surfer study is just more attention, the idea of more data within the rainstorms that people really aren't supposed to swim near the rain, that the surfers do anyway. So we're catching that, not encouraging it to happen, but and also the issue of antibiotic resistance hasn't been dealt with in the coastal ocean very much at all.
You guys have talked a lot about retaining or capturing of water. I don't know if any of your groups are looking at this, but is something like capturing the water within organic waste something that anybody's looking at? Just like, you look at certain, fruits and vegetables that have like 90% of their content is water. I mean, talk about a Ralph's capturing rainwater. What about capturing the water within the organic waste that they're just throwing in the trash can?
So there are a number of companies that actually look at taking organic waste and you can turn it into feed, fuel, fertilizer, and filtered water. And various and sundry, anaerobic digesters and modular systems really look at taking all elements or focusing on it. And sometimes you're not just looking at like waste from a restaurant, but you might look at something that is more of a large agricultural situation where you have a lot of the same kind of waste that you can then divert into these different resources.
Can I add a little bit?
Just adding a bit more about water footprint of food choices. If I think about the largest water footprint, or the section of the water footprint would be toward feed crops and just watering crops that are not eaten directly but fed to animals. And so I think that's responsible for a huge fraction of the water footprint. So diets that are more plant forward, less animal products are just gonna have a much smaller water footprint and carbon footprint.
Yes?
Hi, so I'm Siobhan Burke, and I'm an architect, urban designer with the Urban Design and Planning. And I was interested in what Shelley was saying, and I think someone from Public Works. You mentioned the retrofit of our roadways, and so I'm just wondering about what are some like world-class examples of like the best ways of infiltrating stormwater and sort of dealing with storm drains, which is always an issue with the work that I do. I worked on the Metro Rail River project on Slauson, and it's going to be the first greenway of its kind to sort of retrofit of a railroad right-of-way, converting it into the greenway. And so one of the issues that we were constantly dealing with, despite our use of a bioswale, is when, the storm drains or storm drain locations, and even like creating holdouts at the street corners to create safer streets for bicyclists and pedestrians. So I'm just wondering, do you know of any great examples, or are there some, right, is the city sort of taking some measures that I could be looking into?
Actually, there's a program called GRASS. Are you familiar with? Greenways to Rivers Arterial Stormwater System.
Yes.
So that's a big county, city measure to, it says since 88% of LA's water is currently imported from hundreds of miles away, this represents a shift to local water use. So they're talking about multifunctional greenways and stormwater and all of those sorts of things. And unfortunately, the woman who is working on that, couldn't be with us here today, but we should follow up on that. If anybody has more to mention, of course, that's what we wanna do with the river, LA, Angela, you might wanna say.
You know, with the LA River, there's a lot of really exciting innovation that's happening. So one huge piece of property that the city of Los Angeles is really looking at is G2. It's over sort of in the north of the downtown area, and it's all about creating additional permeable space. And so I think the LA River, you know, in other places it's going to be about creating, like I said, the bypass tunnel, which could actually be widened out and create additional space for infiltration, and then, you know, kind of looking to really new technologies and new ideas for how we can capture quickly. In our case, it's less about permeable surfaces and more just how to take that water quickly out of the channel and be able to use it in another place. And so, you know, I think that's an interesting and innovative place that a lot of folks are putting resources to think about it, because so much of the system is now directed towards putting that water there. And so, can you get it out? Can you use it? Can you pull it into the places where it can go into the aquifer? I think is an active conversation.
Yeah. You're really like in the trenches of, you know, how many feet from here to here and how many gallons when it rains and that kind of thing. So that's a really important place to be. And I just want to mention two projects that I really like. And one, I don't even know if it ended up working in the end, but I need to get an update on it. The city of Santa Monica was planning to remove the bottoms of some of the storm drains underground and make them permeable. So the water is still going to flow in through that grate and then down, and then in lower flows it should all sink in, and at higher flows some of it will keep going probably. So I thought that was interesting because we don't need new space for that. We're just changing what's already there. And the other one that I really like is the Culver City Rain Garden on the banks of Bayona Creek in Culver City. It's an area that drains, I think, 11 acres of industrial. It's just 100% asphalt and rooftop. And when it rains hard, it gets a huge amount of rain into this narrow strip that is on a slope. And the Bay Restoration Commission built this rain garden that makes the water do this, and sinks a lot of it into the ground instead of to Bayona Creek. So there are engineering elements of that allow that to happen in a very small space, which is part of our challenge now. So I just want to mention those two. I'll be happy to give you information if you like.
Does our sustainability office have anything to add to that?
I was just gonna say another thing that City Valley is looking at a lot too is dry wells. So putting in dry wells various places so that you can capture some of it in a very small vertical space, and also have, you know, with the bioswale, so you're kind of getting both of the benefits. But it does have a smaller footprint, and it has the advantage in some areas where you get the water deeper and closer to kind of the water supply aquifers potentially too. But no, those were great answers.
But just, you know, with such an interesting challenge here in Los Angeles is, you know, we have so much of our ground that doesn't absorb the water well, the heavy clay soil, so it just tends to run off anyway. So even on the company that we're working with the gutter again, a big challenge is being able to, how do you filter out the hydrocarbons and the heavy metals and get the water running through at a volume it needs to get to when you have these no rains and then flooding situations. So, you know, these are not trivial solutions. When you look at you've got major engineering feats, you've got major design from the landscape, and then you have the very specific solutions, technology solutions that are all working on these different aspects of it.
Let me just add to this question. Many years ago, I used to work for the Orange County Sanitation District, and Orange County, different from our county, they happen to be positioned right next to the Department of Water and Power, and so they do work with each other. I'm not an authority on it. I worked there many years ago as a marine biologist, but I do know that they were working to recycle some of the water coming in, and they could be our neighbors. We could look to them to see what they're doing, because I do know they have a water recycle program in Orange County. Yeah.
Way ahead.
They are way ahead.
We're gonna catch up. Yeah.
I am standing up. My name is Nancy Richardson. A lot of people know me as the tall ship lady, and that's what I want to talk about in a minute. First, collaboration is part of our answer, and I had a typo not too long ago, and I spelled collaboration with 2 O's. You know, L-A-B-O-R is in the middle of the word, but if you spell it with 2 O's, it's cool to work together, to labor together. And that's what I see happening here. You talk about mountains to the sea. Tall ships are on the sea. Half the kids who sail with the tall ships here in San Pedro from LA say they've never seen the ocean. When we pass the lighthouse, I always say we're passing from the busiest port in the Western Hemisphere to the largest unexplored wilderness on the planet. It's exciting to be part of opening their eyes to how we're interconnected. And the exciting opportunity for collaboration with all of you is that Tall Ships America, the national organization for adventure and education under sail in this country, and connected to Sail Training International, which is a worldwide organization. We're bringing our 46th annual conference of Tall Ships America to San Pedro in February. I wonder what brought that on. Anyway, and I have the privilege of coordinating what we're calling a summit on ocean literacy under sail. How many of you are familiar with ocean literacy? Okay. It's an ocean literate person understands the relationship of the ocean to all of us, its influence on all of us, and our influence on the ocean. And our summit is going to be on February the 25th, half of it at the hotel, and the afternoon here at the Cabrillo Marine Aquarium. And I've already talked with some of you about participating in that, especially because we're going to have a youth forum, and I think that's an important component. And if you can get some kids or youth from 25 years of age down, if you will, and yourselves, just keep in touch. I'm very excited about this afternoon and the collaboration that's here. This is life-changing. Thank you. One more little demonstration. Sailing is a metaphor for life. You have to pull together, to raise the sails, to catch the wind, and ride the waves to steer to your destination. So I invite you to come sail with us.
My name is Shauna Eleni. I'm trained as a regional planner, but I've mostly been focused on K-12 education as an advocate for encouraging some of the sustainability issues. And I'm interested, I live near LAX, so a lot of these projects you're talking about are close to us. And what I see is that we have our West Side planning list for Los Angeles. So for the city of Los Angeles, the West Side is doing their planning areas. And I'm not aware, actually, I know that sustainability, I think, is one of the sections, but are you guys working, and I know there's 88 cities in the county, but are you working with them to try to incorporate some of these ideas as they do their, their 10 and 20-year plans for the city?
Torrance is changing theirs. Torrance is changing theirs January to April.
Well, I'll just jump in because we're in the middle of a planning that actually includes all of the county of Los Angeles. So, so everybody, all 88 municipalities are invited. And the county basically has a 25-year-old master plan that for the LA River that doesn't incorporate a lot of this new ideas and new technologies, but also a new approach that is broader than just, say, focusing just on flood control. And so we're working very closely with the county to reach out to as many communities as possible, but also to bring and update all the technical knowledge that is going into that basically planning document, but it's a planning document that will guide the next generation of work that happens for the LA River. And so that is one thing I would flag that is an opportunity right now. I believe LA River Master Plan.org is live now, and you can go check out all the materials. We can make sure that gets sent around to everyone, but and also to contribute your ideas and thoughts. And I think that's one of the most important parts of those big planning, sessions, that they can feel like you're just creating a document that goes on a shelf, but actually what you're doing is really laying the course for a generation of work that Public Works and the county will do around the LA River. So I really encourage folks to participate, whether it's from I'm a general citizen, and I care about things like stormwater, and the LA River is an opportunity to do more. You have a great innovative entrepreneur that's doing something that's going to bring permeability to the concrete, that's going to encourage communities to see themselves as part of it. So all of that is part of that conversation, and so I would say that'd be one I'd really highlight and flag.
So through the great Cynthia Hirschhorn, who actually sits on our board and River LA, AltaSea is participating in the master plan that Angela referred to. And they have, I think in Long Beach on the 25th of next week. And I'm going. It is a major opportunity. We're supporting it, and some of, even though we're the youngest organization on the stage, I think we're gonna be 4 years old soon, Tim. There are some best practices in the business plan, because we're a very unique project of how we're pulling together the collaborations. We actually partner with the tall ships, and they let me, is it drive one? Oh, it's great.
Sure.
Anyway.
You're at the helm.
I was at the helm, where I should be.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I encourage you to come to this open meeting next week. I think I'm right, it's the 25th. It's in the people working on that master plan for the county, for the river, and they are connecting with projects like AltaSea, because we all are connected. So that's all I'd like to add.
And so,
let me just add one thing. I'd be remiss to say that if I didn't tell you all that we do monthly beach cleanups here at Cabrillo. The first Saturday of every month, the public comes down. Anybody, you don't have to sign up, and we clean up Cabrillo Beach, and it needs it every month. So it's a really fun way to give back.
What time?
and Heal the Bay.
It starts at 8 a.m.
Heal the Bay does a lot, right?
Yes, we had a cleanup. I think 1,000 people showed up to our cleanup today. People really want to do something good, and people come back again and again to clean up our beaches. We also have monthly beach cleanups up and down the coast in LA County. It's actually, what's today, the third Saturday? That's when ours are.
It's different than
Yes.
So,
Can I
do you have anything else to
Can I add something for City Valley?
Yes, please.
Just to answer the question about Simon's sustainability office and Mayor Garcetti's office twice. But we're working closely with the planning department on general plan updates to kind of work, and also I can echo going to LA River master planning meetings are great. There's a lot of really active planning going on in a lot of areas. The county's doing their own sustainability plan. We're refreshing our plan this year, so we're working a lot with everyone to try to identify opportunities to find collaboration, because there's a lot of really great activity right now happening.
One last question, and thank you again, Cynthia, for organizing this. It's amazing. Is AltaSea and Braid and LA River, are you coordinating a way to be somewhat self-feeding, that sort of one of your for-profits can sort of benefit from what they're doing, and maybe, I don't know what that would look like, but I would imagine that there's a good way, because this feels like what you're doing with the LA River is like the major opportunity of our city's lifetime to really be the blue economy, to really take a lead in being the environmental city, sort of.
Well, I'd be happy to start with that. We actually physically moved our facility inside AltaSea so that we can develop a very strong partnership to bring the entrepreneurs physically there. not only do we work with them to provide solutions throughout, California, but some of these solutions will actually be implemented at AltaSea. We look for, it's very, very hard for an early stage technology company to actually reach out and figure out, how do you deal with a county agency? How do you deal with a public, Department of Public Works, right? How do you deal with a water department? How do you work with an agency that's dealing with the LA River? So that's part of what our company's role is to connect with the people on the stage, with the people out in the community, be a part of these master plans, learn a lot of, one of the things that I look at is, you look at the planning, you look at the advocacy, you look at regulation and legislation. All of these activities help inform entrepreneurs where they should be focusing their resources. So if you see that things are coming down in plans that are providing resources and dollars to implement technologies, then there starts to be a match of opportunity of entrepreneurs that are going to go after some of these solutions. So part of it is this huge matching game of policy, advocacy, nonprofit, government, investors, and philanthropists, and the entrepreneurs, and the engineering firms and large corporations that help implement. It all has to work together.
So that,
And that's the goal of AltaSea.
I just want to,
In a nutshell.
And that's the goal of all of this. So
Yeah.
I just want to say, because it's 4:10, and I want to respect everyone's time, and thank you for coming on a Saturday afternoon. But that was the whole idea of all of this. And we had a lot more people obviously signed up, and who couldn't make it. A lot of people have a lot of interest. This was all sent out on all of these networks. The idea that I've always had to try and provide a platform for partnerships and networking the networks. If it's okay with everyone, I will share all of the emails and contacts with each organization, so that then they can continue the conversation and you can connect with everyone. I think we'd like to put together a LinkedIn group or community, so that we can raise more issues and have a direct way, and also Flow Project will be working on that. Civic is our group that is trying to also form these collaborations and kind of find the little widget that helps connect between the public sector and the private sector. So there's a lot more collaboration to go ahead with. I'm very grateful to everyone for being here, and to all of these wonderful women experts. And the idea of issues into action, and going from policy and academics into entrepreneurship, and how the different sectors work together, and where are the gaps and where are the overlaps. We have a lot to do. But water, we know, is such a big issue that can bring us all together. And just having, like, our last Civic one, the offices of innovation, sustainability, and resilience were all on the stage. They all worked together all the time, but had never been together. The fact that you all would show up and come together, I'm so grateful, and that I think that this is just the first of collaboration, and it's very exciting. At this scale, that's the only way that anything can happen. So, thank you.